In the small town of Wentworth, Ohio, there's something weird going on, and it's all happening because of an autistic boy. Or is it? Let's read the Regulators and find out. Welcome back to BG's Books. I'm Mr. BG, and today I will be reviewing The Regulators by Stephen King, writing as Richard Bachman. So, The Regulators is special for two reasons. Not only is it my return to Richard Bachman after so long away, I can finally read the rest of the Bachman books, but this is also my 50th Stephen King book. Hooray! I know, it's very exciting. I've finally read 50 Stephen King books. So, in case you're wondering about, my voice or the lack of color everywhere or even my glasses, at the end of the last review, I kind of got blown up into mine and then I ended up wherever here is. So, I'm sorry if this inconveniences you a little bit, but that's just how things go. So anyway, The Regulators is connected to Desperation, which was the last book I reviewed, and Desperation and this one are kind of like mirror novels of each other, or as Stephen King likes to describe, twinner novels, where basically they're alternate universes of each other, but some of the characters that we see in one appear in the other, perhaps differently. So, say, for instance, Johnny Marinville was a writer in Desperation, but he's also a writer in The Regulators as well. But the family of Ralph and Kirsten Carver, and they have children named David and Ellen. Ralph and Ellen are the parents, and then David and Kirsten are the children. This time, David and Kirsten are the parents, and Ralph and Ellen are the children. So, there's kind of stuff like that. And then Colleen Trajan, the evil cop from Desperation, he is still a cop in The Regulars, but he is a good cop this time. So he's not possessed by the evil force known as TAC, which also appears in this one. So, those are just a few of the differences in here. But so anyway, this one is kind of a little confusing and weird, so let's get right into what The Regulators is actually about. So, instead of taking place in Desperation, Nevada, like in the last book, The Regulators takes place in Wentworth, Ohio. And so basically the book starts out with Paperboy Kerry Ripton kind of doing his regular route and everything, and then he's violently killed in a shootout from a red van. And so that's kind of suspicious because nothing ever really happens like that in Wentworth, Ohio. So basically the town is kind of weirded out right now. They're very confused. They're very scared. So Colleen Trajan, who, mind you, was the evil cop in the last book, he is a good cop here. So he kind of rallies the town and kind of they hide out in places. And Johnny Marinville, who is still an author in this universe, tries to make a call to the police, but an otherworldly force stops the police from being called. So that's kind of weird. Anyway, so the entire town is kind of tearing itself apart right now, but there are two residents in particular who don't seem to care about this incident at all. And they are Audrey Weiler and Seth Guerin. And Seth Guerin is Audrey's nephew because a couple of years ago his entire family was killed by the same red vans. And so Audrey's kind of been taking him in and taking care of him ever since. And so they've just kind of been silent about this whole thing. Anyway, it's revealed that about 2 years ago, while going to the mining town of Desperation, Nevada, which, keep in mind, was the last book that we read about, Seth and his family went on a mining trip or whatever, and something weird happened to Seth. He got this weird thing called TAC in his head after it escaped the well. And then, long story short, he has TAC inside of him now, and his family later gets killed, which is what led him to going to Aunt Audrey's house. So anyway, and then Talk has this thing to where he can take over Seth's mind, and Seth is kind of still in there, but he's in the deep recesses of his mind and whatever. And so, and so Talk really likes this thing called Motocops 2200, which is a cartoon that Seth loves so much. And he also watches this movie called The Regulators, also known as the title of the book. And so, those are Seth's two favorite things, Motocops 2200 and The Regulators. And specifically for Motocops, he really likes this character called, I think it's Cassie or something. That's his favorite character. And then Tack also likes the character and tries to get Aunt Audrey to kind of act and physically look like her so that he can get into the bedroom with her. Yes, and so he tries to go into Audrey's husband's, Herb's, mind in order to kind of, get into bed with her and stuff, but that doesn't work, so Herb kind of is goaded into self-deletion, I guess you could say. So, that's not very cool. And then to survive kind of the whole ordeal, Audrey kind of makes up this mental sanctuary place where she can, calm down and everything. So, there's that. Anyway, so yeah, stuff is still getting weird. Colleen Trajan is still rounding up the town, and then while on a hunting thing, kind of looking for everything, he is shot and killed by one of these characters named Jim Reed, who then decides to delete himself as well out of guilt or something. And then his mother Cammie is not happy about that, as you can imagine. So basically, everything is revealed is that Talk is taking over Seth because Seth has autism, and so his autism kind of gives him a certain mental power that draws Tack to him and whatever. And eventually Tack uses his powers to kind of turn Wentworth, Ohio into kind of a real life set of the Regulators, so a western town. And then the vans that were inspired by Motocops 2200 were also a part of Tack, so everything was Tack's doing the whole time. I hope that makes sense to you. But anyway, there's one weakness that Tack has, and Tack does not like it when Seth goes to the bathroom. So basically kind of has to leave Seth's body while Seth goes to the bathroom because he just does not like that at all. So our survivors, of course, figure this out. And so they realize that while Seth is going to the bathroom, since Tack will leave, they will take Seth and try to keep him away from Tack. So Audrey, she goes and gets Seth while he's using the bathroom, and they try to lead Tack away from him, but that's obviously not going very well because Tack is still trying to get into Seth. But Cammie Reed, remember the woman who lost one of her sons, she brings a gun with her because she's very upset over the unfortunate passing of her son. So she kills Seth and mortally wounds Audrey. So then they're kind of dying and whatever. And then Talk, because his vessel is kind of dead because Seth is his body, Tack goes into Cammie Reed's body and then just explodes her head because she just cannot handle it mentally like Seth could. So that means Seth is very special. And so with nothing else left to do, Tack just kind of disappears into the air, the vans disappear, and the country setting disappear, turning everything back to normal, I guess you could say. Well, normal from now on. And so that's kind of where the book ends, but there is a brief epilogue where this woman is sharing a letter with another woman, talking about her honeymoon, where she saw ghosts who look suspiciously like Audrey and Seth back in the 80s. And this is supposed to imply that Audrey and Seth are now spirits living in Audrey's mental place and that they could not be happier. But this is how the Regulators ends. So, like I said in my last video for Desperation really confused me in the second half after a pretty straightforward first half. And the Regulators was about the same way. I wasn't as confused with it as Desperation was because that's, a lot longer, has a lot more stuff and lore in it. But the Regulators certainly kind of started to get weird, which, of course, is normal with Stephen King. But I still liked it overall. Although, if you ask me which I prefer between Desperation or the Regulators, that's a really tough one to answer because I think about them both the same, honestly. It's they're both really weird, they're both really enjoyable, and they're both almost the same thing because they're mirrored universes of each other. So yeah, if you're wondering which one I like more, I just kind of like them both at the same time. Kind of like the Talisman of Black House. I don't know which one I really prefer, so I just kind of like both of them the same. But, yeah, anyway, as I said, this book was very weird. It was about TV this time around, and so the part about, the ending with the real world becoming the TV set, that was just really odd and just really strange, which, as I said, is normal for Stephen King. But I really liked The Regulators. I've heard a lot of people say that The Regulators isn't exactly very good, especially compared to Desperation, which I've already said I'm indifferent on. But so, yeah, I didn't really know what to expect with The Regulators because I don't really know what to expect with anything Stephen King anymore. But I ended up enjoying it, and I hope you will too. But anyway, so, yeah. For a mirror novel, I certainly think it was a weird choice to kind of have the same characters and everything. Because, as I said, some of the characters have the same jobs but look slightly different, or some of the characters look the exact same but are just completely different people. It's like I said with the Carver family, the kids and the parents are reversed. It's the other way around this time. And then, yeah, so it's kind of confusing at first, but then once you read like a few pages, you're like, okay, I start to get it. So, yeah, that's basically about that. The book was just really enjoyable, and yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. I like The Regulators, and I would say you should go read it as well if you have not. But that is it, guys. That is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of The Regulators. As I said, it is a weird book, but I had so much fun with it. And also, it's a lot shorter than Desperation, so you can kind of understand it a lot easier than Desperation, which is why my summary didn't get all, like, weird this time, I guess you could say. But anyway, yeah, I'm still stuck in this alternate universe, apparently, but I see a TV right over there, so, I'm gonna go try something. So, I'll see you guys later. Alright, here goes nothing. Okay, am I back? Am I back? Hey, I am, okay. Okay, finally I'm home. Okay, good, because that alternate universe really gets annoying after a while.